So one, I welcome you to the second coming of winter.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I am Mike Bombs. And Diana Fine is in Warm Miami.
Oh, I'll bet it's not snowing there.
Okay, what I want to do right now is do open public comment. It seems like we have two camps here. Looks like you guys divided yourself real nicely. Put Bill's in the middle. All right. Public comment. And basically, what we do is we public comment for 2 minutes. Now we actually don't hold for 2 minutes, but like try to keep it 2 minutes more or less. And be very courteous to whoever. Then you have the list over there. Oh, by the well, okay. Sorry, I'm sorry. I also want to do one other thing. I want to welcome back Liz Bailey, town clerk. Yes, all right. Make a motion to open public comment number 1. All in favor? Aye. Nope. Okay, open. You want to call the first person?
Raleigh Green.
Good evening, everybody. Hello, board, Burley, and thank you for your service. And thank you all for attending. My name is Raleigh Green, and I live at 490 Mountain View, Atwood, Burley. I'm very concerned that our town is being used for political purposes in the endless fight between the rail and trail supporters. The County U&D Rail Corridor Committee's next meeting is in less than 2 weeks. And it appears that the chairman of that committee, Mr. Collins, is using Burley to further an agenda without the public having the benefit of a hearing from all sides of the issue. Indeed, from what I have witnessed with the county's committee, there appears to be little interest in having any public hearing whatsoever. I'm hoping that Burley operates with greater transparency and that this train for trail only slows down for a further look. I respectfully ask that the board tonight not vote on the proposed resolution until all sides have had a publicly presented presentation and ideally in a public hearing. Our citizens deserve this minimal courtesy. Thank you.
Just let you know, this is a workshop meeting. You really don't vote on resolutions here. We hold them for, at the end of the meeting. So, the town board votes, it's, yes.
Sometimes we do.
Well, we have to, it's necessary. Lynn?
Larry Ross.
Could I have the third line of March, so the second public comment period after the presentation?
You can do it both, you know that.
Whatever you desire.
And for further debate, yeah.
Okay, fine.
Questions that we need to be answered.
Okay, Harry? Jameson? Jameson.
No. I'll wait till the end of the meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
Russ Bonk. And Russ,
Yeah, there's a public comment session at the end of the meeting.
and can I ask what street you live on? What street do you live on? Your address?
I live in Dutchess County.
You live in Dutchess County. Okay.
You lost?
I heard there was a great meeting tonight. Really boring.
And you're actually on CMRR. You just want to talk about the railroad? Thank you.
What's your name?
Russell Bonk, B-O-N-K. And I will be very brief this first time around.
Thank
I like what Mr. Green said. I like transparency, and I do believe, I spoke last night at another meeting about the taxpayers of this county, and these towns along the corridor having their say, having their chance. Because when you're reaching into the pockets of those taxpayers, they need to know what you're asking for, and they need their voice to be heard.
Helen Chase. And Helen, can I ask what street you live on?
Street,
Yes,
Chase Road.
Chase Road, thank you.
I saw this in show cam.
I did put down Ashokan on the list.
Yes, it's a, I see that.
Ashokan. We don't have a post office anymore, but we already have one. In the resolution, there's an italicized section. And it says, provided that trail connectivity co-located on the corridor shall be preserved. Co-located. Rail with trail. Yes. Preserve this. We only have one railroad. We have lots of trails. If we can extend to Basin Road, it really will allow us, and I'm not a member, really, I'm just a friend, but a real long-time friend of the Cascade Mountain Railroad. We'll be able to connect with what is now the end of the rail trail and provide a facility for people to appreciate the connectivity of various forms of transportation. I am co-chair of the Catskill Mountain Scenic Byway. There's so many ways that we can interact with different modes of transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty Goodwin.
I'm Patty Goodwin. I live on Boyce Road in Glencoe. The UND corridor is owned by Ulster County, which means that it's owned by all of us who live here in the county. Using it to extend a multi-use trail from the Ashokan Rail Trail down toward Kingston would provide healthy recreational opportunities, especially for people in West Hurley and Morgan Hill, and a way for people in the old hamlet of Hurley to easily head up toward the Ashokan and Onteora Lake. Above all, it would provide a safe way for people to avoid walking or biking on Route 28, which is not safe at all. At Route 28 and 375, the Dunkin' Donuts made a tricky intersection worse, doing the same thing by building big tourist hub and parking lot at Route 28 and Basin Road. Seems like making the same mistake all over again and making it worse. And that little piece of land there is in the town of Woodstock, which doesn't seem to want a big parking lot there. I hope that you will pass the resolution supporting a multi-use trail from Basin Road down to Hickory Barbecue, and then from there it can be rail plus trail, preserving trail connectivity into Kingston. The railroad is a small privately owned company that starts in Kingston and ends somewhere in the town of Kingston. It doesn't bring people or business to Hurley, and so it's always mystified me why the town of Hurley would support it.
Mike Schultes.
Good evening. A couple things. First, the 284 agreement that is on the agenda tonight. I'd like to voice support in getting that signed so we can continue to work, because by law that's got to be signed by the board in order for us to spend money. We waited until April to get the plus keep it out of the ground, and we can have it in a lot of roads. We got an early start this year with our construction season, so that's priority one. The other thing, I grew up on Morgan Hill. Been there 69 years. That train was a part of my childhood. I used to take my pennies down there When I used to collect the Costa Cola bottles off the side of the road and take them to the glass store and put them on the track to see how big they get. And I got the idea, well, geez, hey, you can get that big, I'm gonna try a dime for the nickel rather. So I went to nickels and then I went all the way up to $half at one point. My father knew that, he probably kicked my butt. But, you know, the train used to bring grain and lumber up to Gilboa for the farmers. It was very slow, so as we got older, you know, we were able to hitch a ride over to the old train station where the current rail trail is. And, I don't know if people know, but at the end of Basin Road is where the old train went before it made a turn past Dave Leonard's and up into the old, town of West Road. And when they built the reservoir, they had to put the new train in, so that one was opened up, I don't know, somewhere 1900. I don't know the exact dates, you guys will probably do it by then. But, just a lot of history there, so I know when Pete Sinclair was alive, he was working hard to try to take the old building that's now falling down. When you come down Hickory Barbecue Road and make a right, there's a building that's falling down there. There used to be a train station. And he was working hard to try to refurbish that until he had a stroke and was no longer able to do it. I know there was a squatter living in there for many years, and I've walked up those tracks so many times I can't even tell you. And every time I walk them, I think about the Irish with all that dynamite that they used to blast those rock walls out to get the train through there. But I'd just like to ask the town board to take a little bit of time on and don't rush through the supporting resolution. I see both sides of it, and I think that it needs the public to have a little bit more involvement and just take a little bit of time on it. Maybe that's just my opinion, and we'll see what goes.
Christina Gardner? What's it say? And could I get your street address?
Brunel Drive in Boyceville. Brunel.
Brunel, thank you.
While I do the spelling, I'd like to point out that we really need to pay close attention to
Of that things.
AI stuff.
Yeah.
Coming out.
Here, we'll do this for you. There you go.
Thanks. With country facility. It should be focusing on modern rail transportation along the 28 corridor to serve constituents. Neither the existing rail trail nor the recap bus come close to helping those who are losing their social security and retirement savings, et cetera, to get around to spend any excess out and about in the township. Dinner out, groceries, recreation, education, the arts, nature, etc. The county will surely buy because of the short-sightedness. We have wasted so much of our time already for self-aggrandizement, sickly close and so-called community. We're thrown into a situation by current federal activity that calls for a change in thinking and direction. If we genuinely want to do something to better the lives of constituents. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you.
I can't play this.
Meg Carey?
Come on, Meg.
Hello, all. Meg Carey, 25 Lennox Avenue in Glenford. And I have been involved and a supporter of the Catskill Mountain Railroad since at least 2013. And I was an observer of every meeting that the original UND Corridor Committee held for a good 6 months, working very hard, bringing in experts, bringing in as many points of view as possible to try to find an agreeable way to work with rail and trail in the UND corridor. Now it's really unfortunate that it seems that we're heading back into an extremely controversial, perhaps ugly period of time. I was surprised, to put it mildly, to read this resolution all of a sudden in the minutes, in the agenda. I've been watching the agenda, and up until a few days ago, I didn't see this, so this was a big surprise. It feels inappropriate for this to be a resolution before the town of Curly right now. There is a current UND Corridor Advisory Committee that's been working for several months to try to resolve some of these issues between rail and trail. I would say that the Catskill Mountain Railroad, from the very beginning in 2013, has always supported the concept of rail with trail, feeling very strongly that both together are a great treasure for the area, and that it can be done, and that it, for many people, we want it to be a rail and a trail, and both can be safe. So when I read part of this resolution, I was really, I will say, I was shocked to see that you're being asked to support use of the 1.7 mile corridor as shared use trail only and oppose its use for rail with trail. Where did that come from? The committee hasn't even made a recommendation they haven't even made a decision among itself, and certainly no recommendation has been made to Ulster County Legislature. This is premature. It feels like a backdoor way of trying to terminate the railroad while claiming this has nothing to do with the railroad. We're just trying to make a continuous trail. There can be a continuous trail, but there can also be a railroad that has brought a lot of financial gain, pleasure, people to Ulster County. And in this moment in time, to even think about not encouraging the Catskill Mountain Railroad to be able to go just an additional 1.7 miles to Basin Road, where they have a long-term lease with a private landowner. Their desire is to build a very attractive station and a welcome center with real bathrooms, real water faucets, and it doesn't make sense to be having this kind of extreme desire to eliminate the railroad. And we aren't in the committee, we're not even talking about Basin Road to Kingston. We're talking about 1.7 miles from Basin Road to Route 28A to give the railroad a real destination, to make it attractive. Right now, many of you who've been on the train may have heard people say, why are we stopping here? There's nothing here. This is like 28A. It's like nothing there. We want a real destination, and I see no reason why we can't all work together and make it so that the rail and trail can happily and peacefully and fruitfully work together. And I think that you'll hear more later on about some of the specifics from people who know more than I do about how it really is possible to make a trail alongside at some point with the train, and that it is not an arm and a leg in cost, because the railroad has access to state grants and they're allowed to use some of that money to help develop the trail, and it's only available to railroads. And in this moment in time, I don't think we're in a position to say we don't need $4.7 million in our county to help with recreation, enjoyment, and pleasure. And that's not to say that I don't love trails. I also love trails, and I've done a lot of hiking in the Adirondacks. And I now have come to realize how much I would appreciate and value the old timeness of this railroad. And I think everybody should be supported. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add something to, Meg.
Meg.
Meg, you have, you and the committee has a recommendation.
No, it hasn't been made.
Well, is there a way of, having some sort of recommendation? sent to the
I'm not
council?
a member of the committee. I observe it, just as I observe it just as I observed the last one. No, it's the legislators who are on the committee who will be making the recommendation.
Yeah, I want you to also realize the fact that because the resolution is presented, it doesn't mean that we all support it. It was presented to us and basically, well, we are going to discuss this later on.
Good. I just want to point out some of the language in it, which doesn't look open-minded.
Ralph Durham?
Let's talk kiosks.
It's a different subject.
Last year, the town of Hurley presented a grant to originally to replace some of the older kiosks that were needing repair. And some of those are going to be repaired. I believe the bin solution changes. Things are going to repair and two of them. But we have 3 new ones. And I just wanted to give you an idea of where I think we want to put them. Starting at the southern end of the Hurley Rail Trail as the wooded section comes out onto the paved section. Where it's heading north towards Russell Road. We're going to be putting it near the Mike Kelly Memorial benches, right where the trail leaves the parking area, the logical transition point, and would serve trail users heading north. And then alongside the trail, just past the south end of Russell Road, across from the pavilion and the bike racks, we're going to put one right there, a little bit south of the bike rack and the pavilion. That would serve those trailers heading south towards the Hurley Marbletown trailhead. And the third one is going to be at the intersection or the access point of where Depot Road is heading up towards Main Street and then onto the town. This can be combined with an additional signage directing folks to Stewart's and the town, provide orientation for users entering the trail from Main Street. And it would be, hopefully it would be a large sign there to provide some map-based reinforcement on those. So I just wanted to give an update to the town on where Carl Beard, Heather and I walked these sections and we made a determination that we think that these locations for these. Thank you.
We have a meeting on Friday. Yes. At 11 o'clock, I guess. Okay. Michael, we have a Friday meeting at that time.
Is there anyone else who wishes to make a public comment at this time? I also want to report that Heather Hirsch, who's the chairman of the Rail Trail, wrote in support of the resolution.
Okay, anyone else? All right, and make a motion to end public comment number 1. Second. All in favor? Okay, so be it. The minutes,
Everything is posted now up and to and including the last meeting.
and you guys, we'll hold off in a minute then. Joe? I looked at it. Now, what minutes are we talking about? What day are we talking about?
You all have the minutes from
February 25th.
March 11th, March 25th.
And February 25th.
February 25th. So if you
Yeah,
haven't
we're-
reviewed them, you could do it at the next meeting.
Supervisor Rights, me, a couple of things I want to talk about. We had a meeting in Woodstock Planning Board. What's happening right now is on Basin Road, 20 and 28, they want to put a convenience store, gas station in there. I sat there, I didn't plan on talking at the planning board, but when they started to do something differently, I thought this is, to me, it's a crazy idea. What it is, the way they're gonna have it set up is that cars may enter on Basin Road, go to the gas station or go to the convenience store and then exit onto 28. The original plan was to enter on 28 and exit on 28, come in on the west side, the west of 28 and exit over 28. The town board of Woodstock, the planning board didn't care for that. They didn't change it. The change is now coming, it's going to enter on Basin Road and exit on 28. To me, that's crazy. You know, especially if the rail trail coming through and so forth, that's just going to be tremendous amount of traffic on and congestion there. And I had to speak then, and I really voiced my opinion saying, not as a town supervisor, but as a resident of Hurley, that is crazy. Because we can have all these trucks coming in, they're making they want to come, they're traveling west on 28. They want to go into that convenience store. They have to make a left-hand turn at the light and then come through right by the trestle and go into that area there. And I measured up where they wanted the entrance to be from the trestle. It's about 30 feet. I mean, you have these gas trucks and these big 18 wheels coming that way. It's impossible to do. You know, and members of the planning board, to agree with me and so forth there. They kept this public hearing open again. I would like you guys be very concerned about the rail trail. You be concerned about also what's happening on Basin Road. And perhaps like at the next planning board meeting that Woodstock has, you come there and voice an opinion on what you think is happening there. It just, to me, it's like a disaster that's about to happen, especially since you have now cars leaving the rail trail who want to make a left-hand turn onto 28. They can't. They make a right-hand turn, head down to Basin Road and make a U-turn sort of. Add that now to trucks, add that now to gas tankers coming through, and people who want to go and go to that pizza. I don't think it's a sensible idea at all. And so I think that's something that needs to be discussed with all of you guys. Since you're very concerned about what's happening here, more or less. That's the first thing. The second thing I want to talk about is the leachate field, and I know that the board's really tired of this thing. We have had sampling done. Kingston, New York City. Kingston has done sampling of our leachate. We got back the results, so forth. There's now we have the DEC. We're having a meeting tomorrow to discuss what is going on with the leachate. My inclination so far from the DEC is it's a positive result, that they feel that the dilution of the PFAS and the PFOA and the 1,4-dioxane will not raise the level of the effluent coming out of Kingston wastewater treatment plant, and therefore we can resume going through there. On a real good note is I've been speaking to Mark Coaster of Coaster Industries, who wants to come down and do a pilot program where he's going to bring a trailer that's going to clean out our leachate. Clean out our leachate, and they got the PFAS, they got the PFOAs, they got the 1,4-dioxane, and therefore our leachate is a little cleaner in such a way that now we can actually deliver it to Kingston Wastewater Treatment Center. The best part about this is it's going to be free. It's going to be like 3 or 4 weeks. That's going to be free. And the pilot, yes. The pilot is free. Well, no, what it is, the trailer is actually heading down to Virginia. And it's going to be here. It's going to actually come through 87. And he's saying stop here and move off there with the operator for 3 weeks. And then we just got to make arrangements now with Kingston Wastewater with Upward come in, pick up the clean DJ more or less. Very, very hopeful. And somehow this could, again, the idea of this whole pilot basically is to invite other towns to come in who have the same issues, and they all have the same issues. It doesn't observe the same coming through it. And I just think this is you know, at the time right now where we are at, I think this is a great idea and so forth. Because myself being a biologist more or less, I know the dangers of PFAS. I know how severe that is. And even in the very small amounts like we have in the landfill, it's still very dangerous. These are forever chemicals. All right, and I've actually, I've been speaking to a litigation group. There was actually money that DuPont, that is made PFAS, did a settlement. And so we are going to try to get some of that settlement to help clean out our landfill coming through. So that's something that's in the works coming down there.
Will we hear more about this pilot program, how it actually works?
It's-
You know, they clean it out. What do they do with,
Okay.
with what they clean out?
This is
Are we
what-
gonna hear more
Yeah,
about
I'll tell you right now. I can tell you right now what they're doing. It's called nano fractionation. What they do basically, they pump the leachate into like a bubbly solution that will separate out the carbon, separate out the hydrogen, produce carbon dioxide and water, and then also have little bits of fluoride come through there. And that, you know, from my point of view, I speak to Gregory also, who's an organic chemist. It's such a wonderful idea because the whole idea is that you don't want to have PFAS being pumped into the Hudson River, especially since there's town of the Soapers, town of you can buy that. You use the water from the Soapers for drinking water. So even in that small amounts, it's going to be quite dangerous coming to this. You know, so and this is something that I understand. I understand what is going on. This is such a wonderful idea. You know, we have a grant that's going to come, a $1.325 million grant that hopefully we're going to get. And all indications, the way they're asking us questions, seems like we're going to get the grant. They're asking us if the contractor who's going to do the study, do they do prevailing wages? What's their insurance bill? These are questions I don't think they would ask, but they would say no to us the first thing. And this is just a study for the solution. And once if we get a study and the solution's promised there, I think this pilot program will be such a great idea to do it. And eventually, in fact, this pilot program it can be amended, adjusted, that the water coming out of the pilot is drinkable, which means we can just dig a pond by the landfill there and have the water go in there and not go into a retention pond there and not go into a Houston wastewater treatment plant. This is the goal of what the future needs, in a sense, dealing with this thing. So I'm really hopeful. I've been speaking to him, and supposedly that the trailer is coming down next week. And we just have to sit down. We have to sit basically with them and work out details, how to work this out. I am presenting this proposal to the DEC tomorrow at our meeting, coming through it. So like,
Just, when we talked about Aqua, you struck the piece on the mark, this is in that they should at least take that.
Yeah.
And then while they're making their decisions.
well, here's the thing. It's interesting. They tested 4 samples from Jockey Hill, Town of Ulster, New Paltz, and us. New Paltz, Jockey Hill, and Ulster have an arrangement with Kingston Wastewater that they take care of it no matter what. New Paltz's leachate is not as bad as ours. Ours is the worst, but they're pretty high also. And so if they accept leachate from New Paltz, well, I'm going to make a big mistake also. Then that why not from us thing too? In that aspect. So I think the fact that we're getting movement more or less in this kind of thing. So this is something that you know, I'm hopeful for that will happen.
Because the only other thing I've had to this, that we also have to be mindful that in the next year or so, we still have an issue. There's an argument that's going to be, that has been floating around, that the standards for PFAS are going to be lowered.
Excuse
So,
me.
Right now, I think it's set at 10 parts.
10 parts per
10
trillion.
parts per trillion. It's going to go down to, I think, 4 or 5 parts per trillion. And every time there's a lowering of these kind of minimum standards,
Sure.
the costs of analysis tends to go up. So we are really, really quest now to find some kind of logical solution that can help with this problem. This is one solution. There are other solutions that we could possibly consider. So hopefully they will.
But I think, but this is a solution not moving it downstream somewhere else where it's someone else's problem.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is a local solution, another way of dealing with, I mean, I'm not interested, personally, I'm not interested in having another solution that's going to just push the wastewater down the road. I mean, we need to find a way to clean it up here, but that's going to require support from not only whichever company is doing it, but we're going to need state support and county support to get this thing done properly, so.
One of the things also with the EPA, with our new administrator, Lee Zeldin, right now, he's actually in the process of deregulating many things. So in other words, you can dump almost anything with the Hudson River and you're fine with the EPA. So that's something that
Dump
we don't want. So, yeah, he may lower the standards. We're not lowering ours. And that's what. Okay, I am, anybody want to say something? Well, yes, okay. Okay, I make a motion now, we have a presentation. All right, make a motion to open the presentation of this is the trail use for a 1.7 mile section of Union Railroad corridor.
Are we skipping the town clerk and the highway report?
Hold on a
Yeah, I
second.
guess we have two presentations. All right, Jeff.
Let's get on afterwards.
Drop the Union report.
Oh, I'm sorry, hold on, Jeff, hold on 1 second.
We have the highway report, the clerk report.
Okay,
You
all
want to do
I'm
it
sorry,
after
I'm
the
sorry.
presentation?
That's it, now, okay.
You want to do it now? Okay. I just want to give these to everybody. This is the town clerk's report for the month of March. And also the warrants from the highway department for the first, year of March.
Thank you.
You guys take a look at the balance. That's what we can see in the past. This will be at the highway top.
I went over the report from the clerk's office with the supervisor.
Mike, you also have, Mike, on the warrants here, you have actually a balance for each account. You have a balance for each account. I'm saying, you know, these are all the accounts you have here. You have the balance over here of what's left over?
In my budget, I do, I don't put it on the warrant.
Okay, okay.
These go into my budget sheet that I track my financials. You'll get,
Yeah, one question, Mike.
you'll get the next warrant at the town board meeting. I always supply them before the town board meeting. Like you did vouchers tonight, they're on the warrant that's gonna be submitted before the town board meeting. Technically, I'm supposed to only do vouchers once a month. I do twice a month, so the bookkeeper has a little bit more time to process that, the board does too.
Yeah, I just have a question to ask you, Mike. It says here Vasco, they pick up the waste oil and filters. Right here. Is it possible they can come to the transfer station and pick up the oil, waste oil?
Obvious got their number.
Okay. You guys,
Yes, you know, we've talked about this so many times that it's impossible to be properly guided by these numbers without a reference point. Right? We have no reference points for this data.
we need balances, yeah.
Yeah, we need the balances and it's, you know, I understand, I know this is not a trivial ask.
That's what the finances used to do. I used to get them until 2022. I used to get financials reported from the supervisor's office every month
with the balances.
with everything in it.
So I'm just voicing my opinion again that you can't keep functioning like this. You have to have the balances in order to make reasonable decisions. Especially if we're being called upon to make decisions.
There's no
I
decision
know,
made on
I know,
this.
Mike, I know, Mike, I understand that, Mike, but what happens is that when you get information like this before us, when we do have to make decisions, and I'm not blaming you, it's a general issue that we really have to work towards. I know John has looked at this, I know Wendy has looked at this, but this is something that the town on a whole really needs to get a handle on. But this is too important. It makes it impossible for anybody.
It's not on me, that's on the board.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I'm not blaming. Mike. It's not a blame.
You saw the way that it used to be. I mean, when I was supervisor, I got my financials every month, third week of the month, usually the second or third week of the month, and I would pass them out to every single department head. So every single department head knew how much they had left in their account, what they were budgeted. And we do that internally now. I've done that for the last 3 years internally. But that all used to come from the supervisor's
Yeah,
office.
Mike, I have a question. If you do something like this, Wendy does this for the general fund. He gives us what the vouchers are and what the balances are left over more or less.
It should be done for the entire town because it's town.
All right, okay, all right. Would you do that? You then send your books over a little bit, so, to me, so we can look at this thing, and then I'll sit down with Wendy, and we'll start from this point on, putting in, remaining balances, the starting balance. And
I keep my own budget so that I stay within my budget because
Okay.
that's what I have to do by law, but the finances are part of the board.
I understand, but if
You
you
give
just
me a
help.
budget and I run it, so you should be.
All right.
Board's finances should be taken care of by.
All right, we'll talk about this, all right?
I mean, you've seen some of the old
I know.
reports.
Okay. All right, the clerk's report?
Yes. So you can see that the total revenues that we took in were 43,491. We sent a check over for the dog license tag for $20. The majority, well, the building department, permits were over 20,000. And the transfer station was over 18,000, and that's the majority of the revenue that has come into the town. I'll have the tax report at the next meeting. And when we get to old business, I'd like to discuss this conference.
What?
This conference for,
Oh, okay.
okay.
All right, have you looked at the? Okay, all right, we have to make a motion to, accept the close report. I'll make a motion to accept the close report. I said, all in favor? All right, done.
Okay.
All right, okay, trail use, this, now we're up again.
I'll ask questions, I'll answer questions.
Okay, Betsy?
Betsy, you want that PowerPoint on the screen?
Hi, everyone. My name is Betsy Blair. I live at 659 Hurley Ave, in Old Hurley. And I serve as the chair of the safety committee in the town of Hurley. And a little bit about my background. I'm a biologist by training. I worked in wetlands for all of my career, including in a regulatory position in New York State. And how I came to be here, I joined the safety committee. I got involved in thinking about how we reduce the speeding that occurs on our streets. That led to learning about the emergency management and the EMT program. Debbie invited me to be one of the initial members of the steward committee. Thank you, Debbie. And then emergency response is a piece of it. But along the way, we were approached by the town of Woodstock about complete streets as a program that we might want to consider for safety, from a safety standpoint. We've had a lot of bicycle and pedestrian accidents in Ulster County, and I have friends who've lost friends in traffic accidents. Those in Kingston. I personally have been hit by a car, by a bicycle, and so I bring to it, a sense of sympathy for those who don't have the means to travel and get around. Like I do, I'm privileged to own a car and be able to afford to drive. I'm also, aware that Ulster County has some of the worst health statistics in terms of heart disease, congestive heart failure, other diseases, and that there's a really urgent need for more healthy lifestyle habits. And so I have started walking more. I've come to appreciate the trail networks they're developing. There are a lot of trails in Ulster County, as somebody pointed out. I have become sympathetic to the concept of trail connectivity because of how it will not only enable more people to bike and bicycle, but it will enable some people who don't have, who don't have the means to travel more safely. And I drove to an art class earlier today and passed two people walking along the 28th corridor with backpacks. I don't know how far they're home. I won't pretend. But in any event, that's a bit about how I came to be here. In thinking about complete streets, I became aware of the railroad interest, the railroad, which I've known about. My family has definitely enjoyed the railroad. My son Ben, when he was 4, was taken on one of the locomotives by Earl Pardini. Earl said, "I'm going to ruin your son. Give him a ride on the locomotive." And it was a great trip. My daughter sang on the Polar Express, and worked there. So it's been part of our family life as well. I'm very understanding of those of you who love the railroad and the romance of it, the tradition of it, and the rest. But so I was curious about what is this conversation about, and what should we, what can I learn? I don't know I don't know much about the quarter. I don't know much about what's proposed. Here it's 1.7 mile undesignated section. So anyway, I've set about to educate myself in the last 6 to 8 weeks, and I'm here tonight to share some of what I've learned with you. It's not the end all be all, but it led me to reach out to the Trails Committee and to the Conservation Advisory Committee, in part to get more information, and in part to ask them, are you seeing this the way I see it? And so that's what I'm bringing you tonight. I also just want to acknowledge the enormous effort that the railroad community has put into researching this, developing designs, putting forward information. I have a 1/4 inch of materials here that is nowhere near everything they have on their website. So they really tried very hard to solve what I think is a very challenging physical problem. So what are we talking about? We're talking about the Ulster and Delaware corridor from Highmount down to Kingston. I won't get all the language right, and feel free to correct me, but it's a 1-track line, and it consists of sections, and you have this in your packets here. Just there's the Phoenicia to Highmount section that's trail only, or this is according to Mrs. Jacqueline said, Ulster County did a resolution in 2015 that, after many conversations, I think with people interested in trails and people interested in rail. And then Archer County adopted the segmented railroad trail policy for future uses in the Ulster and Delaware corridor. That is resolution 488 of 2015. There are some sections that are designated in blue to be rail with trail where feasible. And,
Is there anyone who's colorblind in here who can't see the paints? Okay, so anyway, the blue and more blue. There is the pink, that's the Ashokian Rail
trail, and then there's a tiny little section
right there that
we're focused on at the moment. And this matters, as somebody else has said, the Ulster and Delaware Rail Corridor is predominantly owned by Ulster County. There are small, privately held sections on which there are rail easements, but they're federally minor part of the corridor. The county policy provided for a tourist excursion rail segment in the Kingston section will also identify the need for future rail access and connectivity between Kingston and the Ashokian Rail Trail. And so we're focused on this 1.67 mile segment that constrains, that is constrained, and it constrains extension of the trail and or extension of the rail, or both of them. The county found this to be challenging enough to not be able to decide what to do with it 10 years ago. And they set it aside for future research and deliberation. And that deliberation is what's occurring right now. So part of the timing of this is that I became aware that there were deliberations. I became aware that Hurley had gone on record as supporting rail with trail, I think without necessarily looking in detail at what that corridor's constraints are. And so that's the piece that I'm bringing to you. More recently, the Catskill Mountain Railway has proposed further extending its rail service to Basin Road, as you know, building a station and connecting to the Ashokian Rail Trail. We'll hear about the legislative committee that's, I think, soon, I don't know when, because I don't know when they're going to make their recommendations, possibly the next meeting, possibly a few months down the road. But it seems important for Hurley to reconsider this, and if it's going to pass a resolution that differs from the one that is on the record with the county and with the railroad community, that we do that now rather than down the road. So it's time, is my point. And the three committees that I conferred with have all agreed on this based on physical constraints, based on the recommended resolution language. I think nobody's excited about excluding anyone, but I don't see a way around it, and I'll tell you why. So if we could please go to the next slide. Jeremy is a mind reader. He just wants to. So what I want to point out is this is a small map. It's hard to read these little things. This is just a sketch concept, but it shows in the brown dashed line with the existing Ulster and Delaware corridor. Can I take this off?
Yeah, just, yeah. Just, there you go.
Because usually when I make my joke about my first number, but I'm not gonna do that. So I just want to point out Stony Hollow right here is one of the proposals that I think the railroad community has, one of the compromises that the county may be considering as an extension of the existing rail corridor. It takes folks just past Patriot Barbecue and where 28A crosses the rail corridor. The corridor crosses through extensive areas of wetland. If a trail or a trail and rail were put in, it would enable better access for some of the rural communities that come in from the west side there. There are a number of sort of natural nature activities that can be done there, a number of economic development opportunities that I think exist with both rail and trail conceivably, although it's a somewhat industrialized and retail kind of setting. It's not a national park out there by any stretch of the future. So anyway, there are three main corridor sections, and we're going to go to the next slide. There are fairly deep rock cuts. They're about a little over a third of the corridor. There's some relatively level areas mixed through there about a third of the corridor. And then there's an area of fill, again, a little less than a third of the area. The rock cuts are excavated down. The width of those corridors, by some measurements recently done in the field, range from 13 to 29 feet. The other times, it is narrower in places. Some of those areas above wetlands. Within the rock cuts, there's sort of deep ravines because in order to maintain a 2% grade, as the railroad was climbing on a landscape that was flat and then went up steep, it built up the flat section and cut into the steep section in order to get that 2% grade. Is that right? No, it's not. The fill is about 11 to 23 feet wide in different places, but large sections of it are just 13 feet. And it's up high, it drops down steeply in many places. And then there's a network of ponds and wetlands, and the rail fill crosses an extensive area of the very high quality marsh and freshwater swamp complex. Very large. We cross it on Route 28. It connects up with the waters of Ontario Lake. And I think one thing to think about is that the national standard for width for rails with trails is 34 feet. That's established by the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials. Let's go to the next one. And this is what it looks like. So this is a fill section. You can see on the right, 13 feet and change measured from sort of the more or less the top of the level part before it really steeply drops down. And you can see the wetlands off to the right. They're very steep slopes, and it's quite elevated over those wetlands. Let's go to the next one. There are extensive wetlands, as I mentioned, along the corridor, and I'm going to show you some of them. So here's Ontario Lake. These are wetlands draining down, and wetlands all through here. More wetlands here, but here's the corridor going right through them. So you have this big elevated narrow fill through these wetlands that would need to be wider, would need to be substantially wide. Let's go to the next slide. And in one of the consulting reports done in the fall of completed in November 2015, there is this quote: Ulster County asked them to look at the railroad consulting firm that is working very hard to try to identify alternatives that might be viable for there to be rail with trail. And page 45, references a fatal flaw, discovered if there is one, for the rail with trail concept in this area is the 2,700-foot long fill at Stony Point. It crosses designated high-quality wetlands that are essentially marshland to both sides. This was an engineer, not a wetlands biologist. It's a mix. And it has steep slides exceeding 2-to-1 slope. We do not think that the CMRR concept of a 4-foot trail and a retaining wall section on this section is feasible due to the stability, slope, and construction of the existing fill without significant erosion into the wetlands below. Now, I understand that is probably not the only solution that's been proposed. There are probably other ideas, but it points out the main constraints in that area that is really regrettable. Let's go ahead to the next slide. Then this is what the rock cut section looks like. So the rock walls are maybe 10 to 30 feet tall. And right up by Basin Road, they get down to 5 feet tall. And again, this would be a real challenge for complying with the 34-foot ash tree standard. Again, I want to credit the railroad for being very creative and very, thinking about if you had boats, you could use the railroad to excavate, to move the stone. You could use the stone to build up the trail elsewhere. There's a lot of heart and a lot of thought that is going into potential solution. Let's see. So, in closing, that's what led me to feel like it may be time to get real about the sort of, to my way of thinking, insurmountable physical characteristics. And I say they're insurmountable because I'm familiar with the state and federal wetlands regulations. The federal regulations may, of course, be going away, or enforcement may be going away, but the state ones exist and will persist. And fill in a wetland of this quality and extent is not permitted. Maybe an incremental fill here or there where it can be compensated and mitigated. But this would be a really significant extent of fill. And I don't see how the Department of Environmental Conservation could find its way to approve it. I don't think it could be mitigated because of the amount of fill, the quality of the wetland. These wetlands take decades to get to the rich maturity of these wetlands and value. So, anyway, that's how I'm seeing it. And so, relating it back to the safety committee and complete streets policy that early adopted, we prioritize the safe modes of travel, and Westerly residents should be able to get to Hurley and beyond walking or riding up to 28 and 28. The rail is not feasible from an environmental standpoint. It would extract a really high cost environmentally as well as financially. I think even with the railroad doing a lot of the work and bringing in grant money, it's still a huge project. And there's a lot of uncertainty, I believe. I don't know this for a fact, but about the condition of the fill and, how could you put it on pilings? Could you do any number of things? There are a lot of unknowns, except that it's this very long, large pile of fill. But we are, and I hope we are, committed to protecting our rich assemblage of wetlands and waters. We have a natural resources conservation advisory committee that's working very hard on a natural resources inventory and doing some great work. The earlier wetland map was courtesy Greg on the conservation advisory committee. Thank you, Greg. Trail connectivity. I think that's been a basic tenet all along, is that trail connectivity should be preserved. I think rail connectivity has been a basic tenet as well. That's, there's this traditional and historic use. But again, let's be realistic about what is feasible to accomplish. And the resolution is here, as I mentioned, because it's timely, and I would like to see Curly's views considered by the county. Now, the county is not meeting until 2 days after our next meeting. I don't know how large an impact Curly's resolution might have on their decision. I got the feeling that they were proposing a compromise, like the one I discussed, so it may not be needed, it may not be essential, but I think if you and your wisdom feel that, as I do, that it would be reasonable to pass such a resolution. So thank you very much for listening, and all of you for listening. And
Betsy, I have some questions to ask you.
Yeah.
First of all, so in other words, your presentation here is that it can either be a rail or a trail, not both.
well, I think in an ideal world, it would be both. However, I don't think it can be a rail or a rail with trail.
Okay. My other question is, so right at this point right now, that's a trail. That's a walking trail. Since there's no trains on there, right?
It's trash.
Well, yeah, but it's still a walking trail.
I don't think people use it. I don't, there's sections that the footing isn't safe, it's not,
It's not for public access.
and it's,
Well, I've walked that trail many times. No, I'm just saying, no, I'm saying that.
It hasn't been designated.
I know that.
And that's what the task of the UOP committee is. This is determined that these.
right.
But okay, so the choice basically is rail or trail. For the town of Berlin. For
Well,
us.
I guess,
I think they're trying to find a solution. What
Right.
Betsy's presenting is just facts and data that says why that is gonna be a very hard decision to make.
How much of that
I,
one?
I think that the county is committed to preserving that connectivity. So it's not rail or trail, given the county's policy. It's rail with trail or trail. It's currently undesignated. And so that's the decision that, is going to happen, but I don't think, rail alone is an option. And I don't have the information to know whether, trail alone is an option. I don't have those design standard information.
What part, how much of that 1.7 miles is in Hurley? Because it starts off being a town.
It's about 2,000 feet,
In Hurley?
correct?
2,000 feet is a half a mile back.
Less.
Third of a mile.
Somewhere in between that.
We're talking about 1.4 miles being in town of Kingston and 0.3 miles being in town of Hurley.
Town of Woodstock also. Woodstock as well.
Yeah,
Extensive.
There are 4 towns.
They're always in there as well.
Yeah, there's always in there.
Somebody has to annex this.
Sure, you pull up slide, it's on a DB 27, it shows town board.
27 in this one?
27, MRR presentation.
I think it's significant to note that they didn't make a decision on this before, when they made a decision on all
Be right with you.
the sections, because this is a difficult, very difficult decision.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure for all the reasons you showed, that's why it was not made a decision in the first place.
27?
None of that has changed.
Oh, in the other presentation. Sure. Yep, I'll get it for you. Yep, I got it. 27. You got,
That was very helpful, thank you.
was that the one you wanted, Jeff? First 2 slides you want? Okay.
This is. So this is kind of Ulster here. Kind of Kingston here. You see it goes along kind of Ulster and kind of Kingston. Kingston kind of Curly, just a little bit here.
And what's that?
Back and it's kind of Woodstock. You cross back kind of Curly. So it's crazy now, causes them to worry a lot. This pink section is
What's that again, John?
I think the majority of the wetlands are in Ulster, town of Ulster, kind of.
wetlands are right here.
Okay.
That's not a
Yeah.
very.
Just want to clarify, here are the additional wetlands
Just because of the rain.
up in here. Yes.
And that's early.
That's the one that- that's the one that
Those
goes
are
on.
Woodstock.
Woodstock.
That's a basin road. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Let me just introduce myself. I'm Jeff Collins. I'm the county legislator. I forgot Woodstock and, Wentworth and West Early. So part of this is my district, part of it isn't. I'm also the chair of the Ulster Delaware Undesignated Corridor Committee. It's been our job to do what they didn't do 10 years ago, which is to figure out what to do with this section of the trail. And as was pointed out, we decided not to make a decision 10 years ago because it was a difficult decision. This is the most difficult part of the trail to make a decision. It's difficult because of the topography of it. There was a great presentation before showing exactly what the difficulties are. There was 2 rock cuts. Rock cuts we can manage. We just cut wider rocks. We can do that. It does take some land taking if we do that. We'll have to take land. We'll have to make it wide. There's a bridge, using the road. Right here. That bridge is small, but it's a bridge. It does not support, won't support road, rail, and trail. It's wide. It's really small. We have to build a bridge. So there's a cost of building a bridge. We're going to do rail and trail. But the biggest issue, as was pointed out in the early presentation, is the wetlands. Wetlands are, I think they're 0.7 of a mile, or sometimes 77 tenths of a mile, I believe they are. And they are very steep. They built up from the wetlands. They look like this. You know, wetlands are down here. It's basically angled like this. The top is about 12 or 13 feet. Ashton standard at a minimum of 34 feet. So that's another 22 feet we basically need to make in width. The only way to do that is to build in a New York State wetlands. I don't believe we can do that. I don't invite us to do that. I don't believe it's feasible to do that. I don't think it makes sense to do that. The other option is an option that the CMR proposed, still a pedestrian bridge. Hopefully. I don't know how feasible that is either. Because it's, I think, a 1/4 mile long bridge. 30 feet up in the air. I don't think we can do that for reasonable dollar amount. So what we are looking at, this was the last committee meeting, I recommended, I brought forth the proposal to do exactly what the compromise was presented. Just allow the CMRR to go across 28A to a depot there. That's land owned by the county. There's a historic building there that's owned by the county. The building is falling down. We can't report it. We can't say it. We can use that property to build a depot. That gives the CMRR a destination to go to. Because in behind some houses on 28, just off 28A. It goes to destinations. They can stop there. They can let passengers off. They can connect in to what the extension of the rail trail would be from the Shilton where it is now on the other side of Basin Road down through this undesignated corridor, would connect the Shilton Rail Trail with CMRR and allow that connection to be both rail and. And again, so now process is the following from now on. We're on the meeting on the 24th. We made one right now, decide. When I say decide, I mean recommend. Our subcommittee, our committee is only recommending recommendation committee. Hopefully, we recommend to the legislature what to do. We will go to a committee within the legislature, the Housing and Transportation Committee, which I also have to be chair of. If that committee then passes it, that's a recommendation, it goes to the legislature as a whole, which then gets voted on by the entire legislature. There was a comment earlier that there are no public hearings. That is correct. We do not hold public hearings at committee level. We hold public hearings at the legislative level. When it gets to the legislature as a whole, there will be public hearings on this. That's the time that's appropriate to do that. We're not deciding anything. We're recommending it. So, open for questions.
I didn't understand what you said about the connection, the connection to the depot. Where would that be?
So here is 28A. Where's 28A? Is this? So across the 28A.
Yeah, it's the black line.
Right there. So across it there, the train can go to this section here, which does not go to now. That is property owned by the county of Ulster.
Okay.
You can build a depot there. You can cross 28A, this point here, will extend the trail down to meet it here. And for this section of the rail and the trail, it'll be both. A very short section. That gives us
And the rest up would be trail,
a trail.
and that doesn't cover, that's not part of the wet, or the wetlands?
The wetlands are, this rectangle here represents the wetland. And a part of the bottom. That's the current compromise that I'm proposing. We've not voted on it. It came up the first time last session.
When you do that, okay, when you call it, you stop right there when you're planning on stopping. All right, and the trail goes further. You're gonna dig up the tracks then, obviously.
Yes.
And you can put down the trail mix.
We put down, look just like it's open over.
You know, on the, if you go to like the Boyceville side. All right, Boyce side, they actually built a bridge over the Esopus Creek down there.
It's a little bit different and a little harder to do. Because you're trying to go on the side here of this. So you have to come here, go on the side here, and this is here's very deep. And I suggest you take a walk and take a look at it. I'll definitely take the walk here. I'll meet them here and I'll take the walk here. Whoever wants to see it. I just did a walk today with another county legislator to show them what it looks like.
Have you presented this also to Woodstock, Ulster, and Kingston down at Kingston?
I have not, the representatives on the, are from, also represent town of Kingston. I represent town of Bolton, Woodstock.
I'm just saying, but had there been a presentation to
This
this?
is really no idea. It's only been, up for a couple of weeks. We've had this idea. So.
But obviously, those towns have to pass a resolution also for recommendation. Including us then too, right?
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't mean to say this meanly. It's up to us, not up to you guys. The resolution informs us, but that decides us. That's just. the reality
Basically, we
of
do
life.
is give you recommendations.
We would love to be able to work with the towns and make sure that everything is, consistent with the desires and needs. But ultimately, county owns this corridor, except for two properties up here, which are privately owned. There's two properties, one property, two parcels, that's owned by the FAI building, which is the building on Basin Road. And we have a easement on that part of it. And the easement is for railroad use, which includes.
Can you just repeat, I believe that you said you would not be able to do over the wetlands because of regulations? Just repeat that part.
We can't really, I'm not a wetlands expert, okay, but I do know that wetlands are very, very difficult. It's the New York State wetlands, it's not just the wetlands, it's the state wetlands, state marked wetlands. So I think any touching of that, any disturbance of that is going to involve a secret process. My understanding, looking at that, looking at my, naive understanding is that we would not pass. It would not be a negative, it would be a positive.
Well, the OW Rail Trail and the Ashland Rail Trail.
Say, I'm sorry, Ken. Say that again.
My name's Harry Jameson.
Both the ONW Rail Trail in Kingston and the Ashoka Rail Trail both have overcome wetland problems by building elevated walkways. So it's not a problem.
All right,
We're going
any other
on.
questions, Jeff?
I do. In this resolution, you made a great statement based on your developing a depot. If this resolution was passed, that would be basic null and void. That's
That's correct. I think the
So,
resolution
I don't-
presented should be altered to allow the train to cross 28A.
This is a very specific resolution
I'm
statement.
not an author of that resolution, so it's not.
Yeah, this is.
This is, yeah, but that resolution is only
It's
for,
just for discussion.
that resolution is only for Hurley. Because where the depot's gonna be, it's not gonna be in Hurley.
Correct, which is home rule, New York State, and really town of Kingston, town of Ulster would be the majority of the wetlands.
Right.
That they should really be voicing their opinion before we even make any opinion. However, the depot idea, I love the idea, and I do agree, behind the houses, I've been on the train many times, and it's a great concept. But I do believe that should be drafted into the resolution as well, so that we're not giving up that opportunity.
I would agree with you. I found your position, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's very important to get people across Route 28 without having to walk. So,
Absolutely.
you know, that's what makes this sterling ideal.
Yeah, if you now show the slide that I gave you on Jenny, slide 27.
27, sure.
On the,
That or higher up.
on one more, 26, sorry.
Okay, so that one.
Yes, this is actually from CMRR. It was a presentation that they gave the Ulster County Corridor Committee. It shows almost exactly what I want to do, what I think the compromise is. This is 28. This is where you're in now. Right now is what this is CMRR means right around here. I want to take them across 28A. For the parking lot. Build a trail house. And then from here, rail. I'm sorry, from here, trail.
Trail.
Trail here, a rail here, trail through here.
Rail and trail,
And we can do rail and trail for a short period of time.
so we would lose connectivity though to the other section,
No. Just go all the way back to Chopin.
towards
Okay.
Kingston.
Other way.
I'm talking about what happens towards Kingston.
Kingston, yeah, so the train, there's no trail to Kingston now. Right, there's no trail. Trail ends at Basin Road. This would take the trail to here. This section is designated as rail plus trail. By the Ulster County,
So,
legislature.
so at some point in the future, theoretically, we could add a trail, we could add trail there,
This is less daunting
yes.
than this is. For the rail plus
I
trail.
think it'd be great if we also had that connection trail to Kingston.
I agree with you.
Right.
Designated, it's not, it's difficult, but it's not impossible.
Are you talking about the rail trail now going towards Kingston now?
Yes, that's what I would talk
Right.
about.
Sure.
Yeah.
Going from Kingston, like, oh, it's rail and trail.
It is rail and trail right now, but
Designated, but just one trail.
it's no trail.
Designated that with the business.
Would you put a trail in there then?
We would love to.
Yes.
That's. Yeah. And just to be really, really clear, nobody wants to take away the train. No one. That's what we're going to choose, trying to do is try to fill, we're not going to fill the train. We just want to be able to get things to work.
So rather
There's a
than,
question here.
rather than let the Catskill Mountain Railroad go to Basin Road and plan projects, basically, we're gonna have a compromise here that will let us go another 1,000 feet.
Mhm.
So we will have a train to nowhere and they will have a trail to nowhere,
Because you show.
because they don't have a trail to that point.
I don't truthfully see the difference between rail meeting trail here and rail meeting trail a mile point 4 further up. It's the same thing.
And there's nothing to do that mile 24 farther up.
It's a trail.
I'm I have a question. A very important question does pertain to you guys. Emergency services. I'm a EMS. I run on 2 rail trails, that are a disaster. We have no emergency service inlets. You cannot run an ambulance on a rail trail. So somebody falls on a bike, somebody has a heart attack, you have to get all the way down that rail trail, pick them up, bring them back to a designated area where an ambulance is posted. You cannot run an ambulance or emergency services. But it's the
Yeah,
same
but
thing
they
for the
need-
rail, it's the
Yes,
same
that's,
thing.
the train audit goes through. The train is going through. It'll meet at the other end. Now, if you have, but if you have someone,
Hold on. The
who has
conversation is
a-
with the town board.
and we've had issues, numerous issues, where people have had heart attacks on rail trails, where they have fallen off bikes, where they've gone down in this undesignated areas, and you have wetlands. You're gonna have people that are gonna stray off of those wetlands, and you're gonna end up with kids in water. You're gonna have snakes, and believe me, you've already had rattlesnakes. You've already had where you had to fly people to go get. So you're going to have to decide in that mile, where are you gonna have a designated emergency area where they're gonna be able to get an ambulance or emergency services in? Because you're gonna need RV.
Yeah,
How do you-
so I know emergency services in Hurley, we have 4x4s. So we have vehicles that go in and with stretchers on them to get, we use the same thing down here when we go up into the woods with the rail trail down here. So I mean, we have the same issue. Somebody gets hurt up in there, you don't get an ambulance up there either.
Right, you're
So
gonna
we
have
use
to,
our.
but you're gonna have to decide where that's gonna be. And you're talking about areas that is not going to have access to 28A and 28. You're talking about an area that is not going to be as easy to get to as well.
The entire section.
Yeah, good.
Your areas.
I have a question.
The entire length.
Talking about this one?
Yeah.
Yep.
So on this, there's access. Here. Access. Here. Eastman Road. Access here.
So, I mean, I think that's something that, as the county looks at this, and that's a good thing for you to go voice at those public hearings to make sure that emergency services.
If you're going to decide this, that's something that you as the town board need to, because that's your emergency services. You're gonna need to know how far they're going to have to be stretched as volunteers. And where is your paid service going to intercept?
We need to, on the Ashokan Trail itself,
Excuse me.
you have access to the social.
The Ashokan, after numerous conversations, yeah, they put in,
They put in wide.
but it's still, I will tell you, it's still a challenge.
Hi, my name's James Munson. I've been an EMT for 40 years. I'm a steward on the trail, on the Ashokan Rail Trail, and we do have incidents. And the local fire companies are all equipped with the 4x4s that have, that are able to carry stretchers, and there really hasn't been a problem at all. I've actually called the ambulance 3 times, and they've responded very quickly and had the people out of there and on the way to the hospital within a half an hour, if not less. So,
Okay, all right, thank you, Jeff.
So we have questions on the process that you guys all have.
Jeff, you mentioned 2 entrance areas to it, but what's the distance between those 2?
So actually 3 is
But I'm saying from that. That's
so
where
here,
going up.
here,
From there.
these were cremated entrances, right?
Right, so from that one to the one above.
That one to the one above, I guess the 1.7 all the way is probably
A mile.
a mile.
Mhm.
So there's access here and here, so the worst part is half a mile. And even with these, this is 28 here. I'm not sure how you can, there's a couple of access to which you believe, this is lumber actually next to here too.
Okay.
I'm saying potential might probably connect to that.
Yes, thank you. I have a question for Mr. Collins, actually two questions. You have, and the trail group have for years now, over 10 years, been harping on this AASHTO standard. It has to be 34 feet. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. That 1/3 of a mile fill section will never be 34 feet.
34 plus trail plus trail. It's trail loading. It's 10 feet.
Okay, so you're going against your standards that you.
No. Trail balance, 10 feet.
My second question is, if in an ounce of non-common sense, all parties agree to this compromise, this 1,000-foot compromise, will the county build a runaround track for that engine to dismount and go disconnect and pull the train backwards instead of having to push it?
How's it?
I can't, this guy's doing that, I can't do it, not do that, I think that's the negotiation point with the county.
What's it do again?
With the committee of the railroads.
Yeah, it just goes the other way.
It's not my job. It's the county can't do it, it's my job to pass legislation.
Well, that's a major part of that compromise, if you want to call it a compromise. We've seen the 11.1 mile versus 4.5 mile compromise back in 2016. Here we go again.
So that's another, again, that's a great thing to take to the public hearing when the township has
Oh, we
that
have
public
it.
hearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Doesn't the train just go back?
Pushes back.
Push it back.
Full slow.
Turn it around and have a. I think, can't do it.
Yeah, we need to.
I think that's, thank you very much.
The directions it's being pushed.
All right, but in the discussion now, the first one is the resolution here. My feeling is right now, what I like to hear from the railroad itself, something have a good presentation. At the next meeting, the meeting exists. I was asked by Diana Klein, who was, this resolution came in yesterday. And I was asked by Diana Klein if we can table this thing till the next town board meeting, which is still 2 days before the county makes it. And at that meeting, I would like to have the railroad come and do a presentation. I have lots of questions to ask. I don't want to ask it now because we've already gone a half an hour to 40 minutes on this discussion. But I have a bunch of questions I want to ask. So I would like you guys to do a presentation on the, today is the 8th, this is the 22nd, right, of town board. You guys will come in and do a presentation on that because we still have 2 days. So I think they 2 days till the county makes a decision. Yeah, yes.
I was basically holding my public comment till the end.
Okay, you can. Yeah. You can.
I mean, you want me to do it now?
No, let's do it at the end.
Very good.
Okay, all right. So again, so I would like to, well, I shouldn't say table because we're not gonna vote on it today anyway. All right, so I'd like to have continuous discussion with presentation of the railroad contract. Are you going to do the presentation or no?
Probably, early on.
Okay.
See them on the first.
Okay, all right, so again, just contact the town clerk, you know, and, do all the arrangements, all that. And
that's gonna be on the 22nd.
22nd at Town Hall in, Old Hurley.
6 o'clock.
You take the train and make a right. All right, wow, I guess I feel with that. Okay, 2284, Michael, what? 284 Union.
I can bring it up if you need to see it.
Yeah.
I swear I'll get it for you. Give me a second.
Go ahead. This is basically what the highway has to do. They actually, you know, this is for basically not the money they're spending on paving roads and also capital roads. This is in the budget, yes. This is budgeted, and this also goes to the state for TIPS funding. And mostly we get back with them in the year more or less. So I've already signed my part. I'll get it ready. And I think this is very, yes, we all have to sign it.
Physically sign it?
Yes, we all have to sign it. In fact, I need 2 copies. Do you want to take yours? Oh, hold on. You and Mr.
We need to put the date on there? No.
You know,
I
copy.
don't know if it's the,
Go ahead.
Wow, this is 6 minutes.
Yeah, we do it every year. It's done by resolution, yeah. No, not a resolution, it's done by, you just sign it. There's no, you just have to sign it,
You can discuss it.
Yeah.
As if it were already, this is how the form
This
is.
is how it's written up. Yeah. You told us in past 40 years.
yeah, I mean, my
You
question.
can make it like. And, you know, we're approving and authorizing it.
Yeah, I mean, no offense, but I mean, it's not that, when we're, how it was done before, it's really like.
Well, this is how it's always been done.
Right.
I got it.
I make,
Make a motion authorized to sign it.
I make a motion, the town board authorized to sign the 284 agreement. All in favor? Oh, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. John, can you do me a favor? Can you tell, I think we need 2 copies, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. You remember this thing?
Do you have a Diane's copy?
Isn't that
Okay,
there?
Here we go. It's Diane's copy. It's in
Just bear that one.
there. Just give him the whole copy. Just give him everything. It's
It's
Diane's.
2 signed.
Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, just give it.
The safety committee, remember. That's Alice.
I know, but I don't believe Courtney's.
Courtney's here, okay. Just.
Okay, all right, the next one is, appoint Alex Trice and Courtney Vogt to the safety committee.
I know motion that. So we have two people that stepped down. We had 2 openings and we would like to appoint, Alice Rice, who's here tonight. Hi, Alice. And Courtney Vogt.
Gordon voted.
Oh, Courtney Vogt, oh, yeah. I don't know.
That's Josh's sister.
I think Josh's
That's his
sister.
sister.
Yeah.
That's cool. I second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Debbie, who were the 2 who stepped down? Who were the 2 who stepped down?
It's in the resolution.
Okay,
And Diane's after.
I see. I see, thank you.
Everyone's done?
Okay. The chief of center. All right,
Replaces Rico?
Rico never sent, Rico hasn't given us anything, contacted Rico, and we've been doing this for over a year, and the only one we got so far is from Kushida. This is exactly what, the reason what's happening is that the equipment we have right now is old, slow, and, has a lot of kicks to it. What we would like to do basically is that the highway department doesn't have a printer, a good copy machine, what they need. But we have it at town hall that they need. It doesn't fit down. So things though that, and I know John put in the budget for new copier.
Okay.
So I make a motion. Well, resolutions here.
It's not.
We can wait till next month.
All right, then we'll wait on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was the one that we needed in the past.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay, what we have done, we sent out an RFP for mowing. Now, we have, from, Climate Smart Community, All right, we have gotten a grant for $30,000 for electric equipment. So we went out and purchased basically a, zero-turn, lawnmower. We bought, leaf blowers, we bought, weed whacker, we bought a whole bunch of things, and a ton of, batteries to go with it though. And what our plan is for a maintenance man to do the mowing. Once again, so what we actually needed was someone to do a backup, just in case. You know, this is the first time we're doing this, so we don't know what the results are gonna be. We want a backup to do this kind of thing, and put out an RFP to get this thing, and there were 3 bids that came back. Debbie and I both opened it, and we chose basically the one with that, we chose one of the bids that was the cheapest there, and has $500 to do what the RFP said, and that's what we chose. The other 2 bids, one was for 600, and one was 625. All right, so, the resolution here. We, you know, not to pass anything tonight. But we could get, if you want to do it.
Yeah. let's do it.
All right, I'll make a motion to pass the resolution to award going to pro landing, pro landscaping and design. Okay. Very good. Right? All right, all in favor? Okay. Okay, Justice Court. Oh, I'm sorry, the early ambulance contract. You want to talk about that?
I just wanted to say that we put it in here for you guys to start looking at it, absorb it. We still don't have everything back from the attorney yet. There's still schedule A that has to get added to it. We're probably gonna get some changes, minor changes to it. Again, just for you to start taking a look at, and we're gonna be looking at that, at the next week.
And by the way, if you have any questions about it, you know, you're welcome to comment to on that.
I can shoot you an email.
And hopefully by the next board meeting, we'll have
The final
version of this.
Go ahead and get this going.
Okay. All right, approve the Justice Court order. This is actually forwarded.
One second.
Who made the motion, Doug?
Greg.
And I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Pass. Oh, and, any no votes? You said no.
He
You
said
said aye. Okay. No, Diane.
I'll say you.
Go for it.
For me.
Okay. The Town of Hurley Independent Financial Audit, all right? We have the certified, we have the certified resolution from last time, and what we're gonna do right now is I'm gonna, tomorrow, I am gonna send it up to the office of the state controller, asking for them to do a financial review of 2022 and 2023. Also, we are sending an RFP, so part of the resolution.
Didn't we pass a resolution?
Yes, yes. I just want to update you.
Okay, okay.
And so basically what we can do also, now I haven't, this is discussion with the board. We actually passed a resolution back in 2024, the UHY, to do, the independent audit. All right, so my question to you is, do we still have to put out the bid? We would, need to ask you that.
You don't have, and it's also a professional services agreement too, so there are different requirements, but you know, that was passed a year ago. It's probably prudent to hop around and get a few different quotes because audits are not cheap.
I know.
It can be range anywhere from, $25,000 to $75,000. So, the taxpayers at least deserve,
All right, so,
look around and get some
okay.
quotes.
So what I'll do basically, we'll make an RFP out for more quotes. Coming through there, and then we'll compare it. Okay.
Payment to fix the equipment rental?
Thanks for the quick rental, yes.
And this is work that was already, this is already complete.
This is already completed. What it was, we had an issue with a little problem with, payment more or less. We were settled with them. And so now basically we've got, the payment of 97,000 and change. We have a voucher for it and so forth. Now, we actually didn't need a resolution for this at all. Whereas we already had a resolution paying, King rental to start with here. So this is the case, we have forgotten. All right, so this is just a resolution to authorize, the payment of $97,000.
And I think if I'm on the voucher, there's 102,000 in that account, correct?
Which one?
Well, there's more, we're
There's
in debt, there's 102,000.
102,000 allocated to this, so we're underneath that.
Yes,
This-
yes.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, all right, but the thing is though, that we do have in reserve $335,000 that we are gonna put in to that account. All right, and that's just, we're just ready for the AFR to come from court, verify that. Yes, thank you.
So if you put in just put in the fund line.
Right, what's the fund line?
What's the phone line?
14H,
14H?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a motion as amended.
yes.
Who's
All right.
making the motion?
I-
Oh,
I did.
All right, resolution to authorize payment to Kingston Equipment Rental and Corp. for drainage improvements on Wildwood Drive. All right, motion is,
I motion, Gregory second, any discussion?
one last thing, the money that is paying for this is coming out of 14A. But what we did is we took our rest of our ARPA monies and moved it to 14H to pay all this.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that was
We did.
already done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job, man.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And, so you go.
Diana votes for it.
I,
Aye.
okay. You want to talk about the summary?
No, at this point in time, so I have counsel speak on behalf of the, we want to review the contract as of right now. It doesn't look like essentially, the request that I made for this grant is going to potentially help us with the time. It's more for services, not necessarily to offset costs to residents.
Okay, okay,
So-
okay. But I want you to talk about, the meeting here yesterday, the rectory. So this is interesting. This is something that
I mean, so we met yesterday in pouring rain cold, and we decided that we're gonna be moving forward with developing the fields, both with about 800 ton of soil, grass seed, redoing the infields. We already have the fences being constructed for the gates for the safety purposes, so vehicles can't get on it and vandalize. We've also decided that we're going to move forward and develop dugouts, make it so that it's legal for both Little League and other youth programs to be able to utilize this. As of right now, they can use it for practices, but they can't sanction games. So we're going to be moving forward to bring the fields up to code for that purpose. Mike's going to be changing over, hopefully with the county and maybe some legislators still here, assist us on that with changing over some of the requests that were made for the fields. There were picnic tables and things like that. So now we want to go ahead and use it more for the infrastructure of the field so that we can get more youth programs involved. We're going to bring in more mulch for the playground and
trenching, water.
Oh, the trenching. So as of right now, I have no bids that have come in for the trenching outside of the Loud Plumbing. So we have until the 11th of this month to receive. So we'll know that better on the 22nd. I'm good inquiring about that. But yeah, we have an H fund for it. Yeah, we have a grant for $80,000.
We have
A matching grant.
We have a matching grant of 80,000, right? In other words, the county is going to pay 80,000, we're going to pay 80,000, and basically, we're allowed to use 25% of that, of our money for in-kind service. And we have talked to Mike Schultz, and a lot of the labor work will be done by the highway department.
So we're discussing that with Mike and with brought the building code officer up, and we decided, that we can trench, they'll do the work, the highway department will do the work, they'll lay the pipe. So when we go to lay the electric and water out to the fields, for both scoreboards, watering the fields, things of that nature, we're way ahead of ourselves. So the infrastructure is done. When we have a little more money, we can, put that into effect, and get some more grants. And the bleachers with the grant. But, I think that I'm going to draft a resolution though. I think that, I'd like to kind of push you to have the highway do it. As of right now, Mike has kindly verbally said he would do it, but I'm going to draft a resolution. I will not be at the 22nd meeting, but I would hope someone would present it. If it's not done by then, that we can, by resolution, not force them, but have a little more teeth in it. Just because we're on a tight line, it's June, mid-June is when we want to put the topsoil down and put the seed in, so I won't have the water ran, so we're not burning up seed and, spending money that,
Certainly.
so, I think that could come through like this.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Potentially should be a resolution anyway.
And the thing is, I was really, this, 80,000, I spoke to Nate Litwin, who's the minister of the grant for the county, and we actually, we wanted to change it from what was originally done. And he says, not a problem, might take a little bit longer, he's gonna push it through the county legislature, he sees no problem switching the grant. I think this is, thank you, John.
And I also got the, I should have the approval for the AED at the town park, in the next couple of weeks. So we'll have that, then we'll have to buy a lock box of some sort, you know. We can do that much.
Okay.
It comes cheaper.
All right. The highway bipartisan infrastructure bill, this is Senator Gillibrand, and what it is basically is, she has asked municipalities if they want any kind of grants coming through, so we asked for a lot of money. You know, she said, yeah, like that, and, basically for the highway garage. So basically, I filled out the grant request. The projected cost of the garage is 8.4 million. And so, hopefully,
That was last year.
that was last year. We don't know
Yeah.
how much it's gonna be now. Hopefully it's all be, it's, by Alex. All right, and so anyway, so this is for the spend, 2026 spending bill coming to the head. And so we're at step one. Submit the application.
Excellent.
Next one here is authorize supervisors to sign agreement to hire Minnesota and Vagin Ellis. These are lawyers because, we have, you want to talk about this? Hi, President.
Whatever you want. So as you guys know from the last meeting, there is a proposed pilot agreement for a housing development in Gallows Hill. Part of the housing community is in the town of Hurley, part is in the town of Ulster. Town of Ulster had previously entered into a pilot agreement with the development company. They're asking the town to do the same. So I think it's definitely in the best interest of the town to hire a firm that is specialized in handling these types of negotiating and dealing with this type of specialized area of law. The proposed agreement is for 40 years. That is a long period of time for the town. So there's a lot of considerations, and this firm also assisted. It's my understanding that they assisted the town of Ulster with negotiating a pilot agreement as well.
So who else? Which other firms have?
We have not, this is the only one.
This is, yeah, so if you want to, look into or recommend getting, retainer from another firm, that's, well within.
This is recommended to us.
Yeah.
By kind of up like too quickly. Yes.
For
Because the thing
their
is-
portion of
Right.
the project.
They using this, they have used this attorney for their pilot agreement with the corporation that's building.
So this is just to have them review it, obviously we're not passing anything.
No.
So you guys are not reviewing or approving any pilot
Right.
agreements
This is
without
just-
it being,
This is just to
this is
review
to
the
have an
pilot.
attorney
No, the higher attorney.
to hire this
Right,
firm
hire attorney to
to
review it.
review and potentially negotiate if there's certain terms that would be more favorable.
So Matt, do you have it's a really unfair question to ask, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. So what kind of numbers are we looking at? How much does people cost?
This was sent together with the actual their letter. And,
I have a copy of it.
So it doesn't look like it's attached to mine.
No.
I definitely say that before you guys retain the firm, you review the retainer.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
right?
You have that retainer?
I have the letter. If you want to give me just a moment, I'll gladly pull it up.
It's pointless to do that now.
So
We'll
why
look at
don't
it.
you review it before the next?
So.
Okay.
let's defer this to the next.
Okay, it's on the website if you need to look at it.
All right. All right, that's it for this, flash. Anything else you guys want to discuss? Right here. All right, I make a motion to open public comment number 2.
Do you want to do this first or do you want to do the public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the town clerk. This is a resolution from the town clerk. What is it print on this before?
I had don't control the minutes. So I know this was brought up the last meeting, it's when I wasn't here. And John thought that there was a training available, which I looked into, and I really could not find anything that was comparable. Even close to comparable. As, you can see, the online classes happened last year, and they're just the webinar sessions. There was a regional training on the 17th, which is Homeland Security again, actually March. This particular conference is specifically from the Town Clerks Association, and they have a specific track for new clerk training. Now, as I put in the resolution, as newly elected official this year, the Association of Towns did not conduct training for new officials this year. And there was very limited training otherwise available. The Office of the Town Clerk is currently lacking in training and organizational guidelines. And whereas the Town Clerks Association will hold their annual conference in Syracuse this year from April 27th to 30th. And this is the only conference designed specifically for town clerks in New York to obtain necessary knowledge to execute their duties using best practices. And the conference is open a special education track specifically for new clerks. I believe that this would be the excellent opportunity for learning how to increase operational effectiveness of the office. And the cost of a 2-night package from Monday to Wednesday, which covers all of the classes. And meals are $701 and it's due by April 16th. Whereas the budget officer has affirmed that the town has a total of $1,500 designated for training this year. I would really like to take advantage of that.
I'd like to make a motion that accepts that.
I like, yes, I think,
So one question, is the $1,500, is that for training for everyone? Or is that for some? So we just, we've already used some of that. We've already used some of that.
So it's a clerk for your planning board, for your bookkeeper that had just went out and left. I do not know what funds are available at this point in time. But that is for the year, 1,500, and that was, and I doubled it from last year. Not knowing that this was coming, and I'm not disagreeing that.
No, yeah, agreed,
training,
agreed.
but it was, I did raise it from 750 to 1,500. Knowing.
There's already money taken that.
So, yeah, and I
But it
couldn't tell
was,
you.
the other classes, I didn't even see anything for this year. I mean, mostly they
Reference
the little
to
seminars or,
you.
I think Linda mentioned.
She went to a bookkeeping, yes. She did.
Right, it was like just an afternoon seminar.
Right.
But, yeah, because this goes over a couple
More
of
local.
days. and it does-
Still make the motion. I could make the motion.
Just-
Motion's on the table, so do you have a vote or?
Well, I will be asking a question during discussion.
I mean, I can tell you a little bit of information. I did speak to Ms. Netter, who is the head of the clerk, for the Ulster County.
Right.
She did state that she will be going to this, and that normally not all the clerks go, but she does go. She comes back. She has a picnic in June, May, June, and she will be discussing everything at that. She does agree. It's very expensive. It is far away. The majority of the new stuff, anything new should be bringing to the clerks. As well as she also did state that there will be a Lake George in June for the clerks, and then, and of course, the AOT.
Oh, look at that also, which is, Lake George, which is, they're comparable, but, and she may go, but, there are 3 or 4 different offerings at every hour of the
Oh,
day.
you can pick and choose, I know.
Right, so I don't know if she's gonna be that, what she's gonna bring.
But she's gonna take whatever new is there, and she's gonna take
Sure.
that, and then
We
bring that back.
need old stuff.
I would like to make I'd like to make a motion to accept.
I'll read the motion.
It's already motion.
I
and
would
already a
like,
second.
yeah, I would like also, okay, second, here's the thing. In the, June, I said, that's a June meeting, right? I'd like to attend that also.
If there's money.
If there's money.
I don't even know how much they are. Let's just deal with what's on the table.
What's on the table. I'm willing to drive up to, Lake George
which
for a
is the other-
day if it's appropriate.
The one thing I do want to say is, because she is entitled to gas, she's entitled to things of that nature, so I just want to be clear, that's not in the resolution, but
No, I'll
you are
take care
entitled
of
to
that.
that.
But I'm willing to do that.
So, I mean, that's not in here, but that mileage, that's why we do it in our resolution in the minutes, in the organizational minutes, so she is entitled to that, so I would recommend that you do.
The only question that I have is the amount of money in this budget line. That's
There's
all.
1,500 in there, I can tell you, that there's $700, and I don't think we spent anywhere near that. But we'd still have to get through the year, and I am trying to push our planning board to do a little more education, which is one of the reasons why I raised this. Also, I raised it so that we have a new clerk coming in and a new town board member who utilize the services as well. So I have no problem with it. I just, when we run out, we run out.
What's the budget line?
1,500, right?
No,
The
no,
budget
no,
line.
3210. 24.
32,
So should this be also amended payable 700 plus mileage?
$7
Yes,
Like
and it's gonna
your-
be, it's gonna be an added expense.
I was willing to pay for part of it.
Shouldn't have to.
Well, planning board has a one focus on this. I think that's one point out too.
For training?
Well, training, okay, it's for contracts, okay, that can be go after that. When we sent the planning board to Lake George,
We did because we only had 715 in the budget last year, but we did use.
no, I'm saying we utilize it from the planning board, budget.
It doesn't work.
They'll go there.
Yes. All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
With the amendment.
With the amendment.
Amendment of mileage, and
700 plus
32,
mileage. This is plus mileage. And then payable.
32.4.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Okay, now.
Then we have,
So open up second public.
second, make a motion, open up second public comment,
Second.
second, favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
804.
Okay, so, Larry Roth, you had said you wanted to speak to second half?
Hello, my name is Larry Roth. I'm co-chairman of the Ulster and Delaware Railway Revitalization Corporation. We're a nonprofit dedicated to preserving and promoting the rail heritage in Hastings. I'm coming down here from a meeting. I got called in because I have a certain amount of expertise on rail. I'm a member of the Empire State Passengers Association, the Rail Passengers Association. Also work with Solutionary Rail, which is a organization trying to give America carbon-free transportation and clean power. I also work with the Climate Rail Alliance on the West Coast, which is trying to get better passenger rail out there too. So I cover a lot of bases. I also have an interest in historic preservation, which ties into the interest in the rail heritage here. And I'm also an Eagle Scout. I got the 50-mile award and the Historic Trails Award. So I know a little bit about getting outside. I've been to Philmont twice, and I've actually been to the Boundary Waters. So I know a little bit about this outdoor stuff, and I have perspectives on a lot of different things. I should mention I'm also a biologist. I spent 40 years working in public health through New York State Health Office. So I talk about health issues too. Let me give you a couple of visual aids here. Didn't bring any slides from these, but I do have some old school analog stuff. These are plans for proposed Basin Road Station, in case you haven't seen it. This would be a nice complex built in the historic styles of railroad stations that used to be found in this area. It would be a combined rail and trail center. We would have bathrooms, we have drinking water. Well, the station staff, we also have people available to answer questions and stuff, deal with people having trail issues. Things that are not currently available, it's trail now is just self-service. But, these are also available on the, Catskill Mountain Railroad website. If you look under the About section of expansion plans, you'll find that a lot more material. Some additional information, I have here some federal publication. In 2018, there were 340 rails with trails over 917 miles spread across 47 states. So it can be done. This is from the Federal Railroad Administration, the Federal Highway Administration, and it's available on the Rails to Trails Conservancy website. It's Rails to Trails, best practices and lessons learned. Let you take a quick look at this. We're hearing a lot about AASHTO standards, and they can be used kind of like you can use a cane. Use it for support, or you can use it as a club. One thing you get out of that is there's a number of different ways to rail a trail. You can make modifications depending on circumstances. It's a question of what you're trying to do and finding the best way to do it within your budget. So just a little background information there.
You're gonna change it.
Now I had a few things. I'll try to be brief. Let's talk about money, and that's something that's not really come up with this. We're hearing that trail will be great, we'll need connectivity, it's a safety issue, but what's not coming up is how much this is going to cost and what the benefits are going to be. They're talking about rail with trail is going to be the most expensive option, but they don't talk about how expensive trail alone is going to be. And we know that it's going to be at least $1 million or more just for the little section they're talking about here. They haven't put out any estimates, they're just figuring out how great it will be. And they don't talk about the opportunity costs. What we're looking at is multiplier effect. If you can connect the rails all the way up to the Basin Road Sherman Rail Trail, you are going to see both benefit greatly. The 2023 Hamilton study analyzing the Sherman Rail Trail pointed out it's been very successful as a public trail. We've got over 120,000 people using it annually, but as a tourist attraction, it's fallen short of promises. What they found looking at the numbers was maybe 12% of those people were actually tourists coming in, bringing the money that was supposed to help pay for all this. You were seeing a lot of great public support, and it's reasonable. It is a great trail, but the economic powerhouse, if anything, is not flushed up there. In contrast, Catskill Mountain Railroad had 60,000 riders last year. Almost 90% of those were people from out of the county. So in terms of bringing in tourists, the railroad is outperforming the trail. If you connect the trail and the rail by putting that Basin Road station there, where both trail users and rail users benefit, you get a cross-pollination effect. You'll have people getting up on the trail who might never have gotten there. And you'll have people there for the trail who might suddenly decide that, hey, let's take the train into Kingston and see what's there. And I should mention a few other things. The railroad pays to use the corridor. The railroad maintains the tracks out of its own budget, not the county. The railroad employs people. They have paid jobs. They also do their own advertising. These are all things that the trail doesn't do directly. It has to be done through the government or volunteers or whatever. So you're talking about revenue there, and bread money is kind of fun. Further, we'll talk about the expansion up to Basin Road from down by Hickory Barbecue. The railroad is prepared to pay the cost of restoring the tracks. They're not asking for any money from the county. They're not asking for any money from the county to build a station. If you talk about the lowest cost option, start by letting the railroad just do that. If you want to have a trail in there, And you can have time to figure that out. Meanwhile, you're also seeing what happens when the rails and the trails connect. And there's an additional factor. It was pointed out that the railroad can get state grants, which can pay for this. They're prepared to put in a roadway, which is also certainly dealt with those AASHTO standards that you're hearing about. Again, if they get the grant funding, it's not going to cost the county a dime. You're getting a lot of bang for the buck here. Now, I had a real discussion last night with Lou Schleppner at the Traffic Safety Board. And he was saying, well, it doesn't really matter, it's all taxpayer money. But he neglected to take the fact that this is not county money, this is state money. And this would be Ulster County getting back some of the dollars they send to the states. This would be money coming back home to do good here. Who wants to argue with that? You guys all know what it's like when you have to go out and get the town budget approved, right? So you got to ask why you're ready to turn down free money, and you have to wonder why they have this attitude on the trail side. Is well, it's taxpayer money. This is for the public good, so we'll just do it. Well, I'm trying to wrap this up. Because I know you're all busy people. You put up with a lot to be here, and I thank you for service. My mother was a city councilwoman, so I know just how much thanks you can get for just doing what needs to be done. Let me see if there's one more thing I might put in. Well, I guess that's pretty much it. If they tell you that they don't want to see the railroad gone, they're being pretty ingenuous about it. Because with every proposal that comes up, and we're seeing this Traffic Safety Board just approved last night a resolution calling for Northwest Trail from Basin Road all the way to Kingston in the corridor. They didn't discuss how much it would cost. And they said, oh, it's only about having a trail there. We want to have the right to have a trail there. And totally ignoring the fact that the railroad is already there. Totally ignoring that the railroad needs to have input because they can actually cut costs of trail construction by hundreds of thousands of dollars, just in the small section we're talking about now. It would be a perfect partnership. And like I said, you would see synergy. This is one of the private-public partnerships that is supposed to be a good thing. It's funny how they keep trying to get away from that. And so it's a bad thing because a company that is paying to use a public resource and actually giving back to the community by doing so. So if this resolution is going to come to discussion at the next meeting, I would really suggest that it be rethought. You don't need to pass it right now. You can wait and see what the county finally comes to on the decision for this, and then you'll be a lot better able to move forward and decide what works best for her. So, thank you.
Who else we James?
Harry.
Sorry?
Yes,
Can I ask a question?
yes.
So you said that you have plans, you can be able to put this all the way up to Basin Road to the very top.
You can ask this man here about exactly what the railroad can and can't do.
But that's saying that you're gonna be able to go through those wetlands.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So Larry gave you a half of our prison, which was.
Larry, what's the last name?
Harry Jameson.
My name's Harry James. I'm the chairman of the Castle Railroad. I've been chairman since 2006. I'm the stockholder. The Castle Mountain Railroad is an employee-owned company. Basically, everybody who works on the railroad is local. We do payroll. We want to send payroll in the wintertime. I have a lot of kids from kids high school. So I'm like, do you think I need to use that?
There you go.
So anyway, 2008, the Catskill Mountain Railroad started in Kingston. And last year, we managed to haul 60,653 feet of family fun train hauls. All we do is good stuff. We rebuild the right of way, we make people happy. And when we came up with this plan in 2020, to go over the basically. We went ahead and contacted the property owner there. The property has an easement for railroad only route. And we went ahead and sat down and he was excited about it. We were excited about it. The landowner was going to build the station. He's going to build the retail. He's going to build the parking lots. So this is a cooperative arrangement that we have here that we went ahead and were very excited about. If you go to our website, and I would, implore you to do that. We have done extensive amount of research as far as this 1.67 miles. Most of the slides that were shown tonight were from our work, from our presentation. All the information is there. The trail people on the other hand really have not submitted a plan, period. Okay? The proposed compromise is basically the river at present ends in a place where there's nothing. And what they've done is they said, okay, you can cross the road and 1,000 feet, and then we'll move to a place where there's nothing. So, let me back up here. The biggest problem that we have right now is the fact that that resolution came before your board. Before the committee, which is empowered to determine the best use of this corridor, was made. And that is basically a backdoor tactic. The committee was formed and manipulated. There are 3 legislators that this project runs through, none of which are on that committee. The committee was handpicked by somebody who definitely is in the trail contingency. And in the February meeting, they were forming a resolution to, in fact, do really should. We went to the March meeting, they came right around. And now it's the compromise. What I will tell you is that the committee is compromised. There's a lot of engineering stuff. The young lady that did the presentation tonight, I'm going to guess she's not a professional engineer. And nor were a number of other people on it. There was one professional engineer. So there is. And third Blitz resigned from that committee last week because nobody wants to listen to what he said. Basically, Jeff Collins, I'm appalled. I am appalled that the chairman of that UND committee came here tonight and supported trail only. And it tells us all the reasons we can't do what we're going to do. They built that railroad, number one, double track, because in the 19 teens, there was so much business on this line that they were going to run 2 trains. So that corridor is wide. They also built it by hand with donkeys and it's whatever. It's definitely doable. And the biggest problem is that the trail people don't want. They didn't want us here ever. So I'm sorry that resolution is on your table. It was premature. It should not be there. We will be here to make a presentation on the 22nd. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anybody else wish to speak? Ms. Chase?
One of the wonderful things about growing up with the train. My father took the 5 of us children down to the Chopin train station to watch the last milk train go through. I'm number 2 of 5. I watched the Chopin railroad station being lifted up, put on a trailer, and watched it go along Route 28 into Woodstock, where it now then sat as Victor Basil's hair salon. Now it's entitled The Station. It's right there. Please raise your beard on to Chopin. several of the trail people have left, thus losing the benefit of hearing the rail response and elucidation. The so-called compromise is not a compromise at all. It is a push out from a logical endpoint where there is a solid and evident terminus. A terminus that everyone can recognize as an endpoint. Bathrooms, enjoyed by trail, rail, byway, Route 28, Route 28A, and enough room for the train to reorient itself. A place for entrepreneurship, such as bicycle rentals, maybe even inline skate rentals, and food, maybe pop-ups. And my druthers, not another gas station or quick stop. This can be an adventure to highlight our single railroad, focus on it with a much wider diversity of users. I'm a proponent of the railroad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Step up to the mic.
You can talk about it? Is that,
Sorry.
is that Russell?
Larry Walker again.
Larry, Roth.
Right.
I'm just saying, make it short this time.
Okay, we're gonna make it short. I should mention, Haskell Mountain Railroad is a tourist railroad, correct? It's just for tourists?
It could be more than that.
If you have this go up to Basin Road, it can be more. You're talking about Stony Hollow, that would be one of several flag stops where people can get on and off. They're proposing running daily trains back and forth during the week. All of a sudden, you would have a way for people here, just walk over to the tracks when the train comes in, go into Kingston, and up at Kingston Plaza. You take their bikes along if they want to do the linear trail city. And all of a sudden, it's not just a tourist bureau. This is a local convenience, equivalent of having your own dedicated bus route with regular service. You can't get that any other way except by keeping the tracks.
Nick Perry.
I just want to stress again that in my opinion, working towards a cooperative rail and trail is really and truly what's best for the community and best for both sides of this very old controversy and conflict. It would be really nice to put it to rest in a win-win situation. I know that the railroad in the next meeting are able to describe the research they've done and how indeed it's not impossible to make a space for the railroad and the trail. As we saw in the Chopin Reservoir, there's a huge boardwalk that goes over the wetlands, and that apparently is being done in many places in New York State and around the country. And that the more people who've done research on rails have come to feel that it is absolutely a benefit with rail with trails. So I know that the last bit of track available for the railroad to use and expand their routes, this last 1.7 miles, which allows the railroad to grow and to have a beautiful station that can be enjoyed by all. And it's just a shame to allow tracks to be pulled up when we could indeed let the train go the whole way. And I was at the meeting in which it felt as if the group, the UND Current Advisory Committee, were really coming to understanding and to an agreement. And a week later or so, the engineer on the committee who was standing up for this can be done, has resigned. And the paper says, pressures, due to pressures. There's one person on that committee who monopolizes the conversation and is only negative about the railroad and this possibility to develop. It's not a fair committee. And what we're looking for is a fair way to resolve something that's very important to trail people and to rail people and to all people. And we want to have a cooperative, positive resolution. And we need towns and communities to stand up for that. And having watched what the Catskill Mountain Railroad has done over 13 years, from 12,000 passengers to what it has expanded to now, is really remarkable, and all on their own. And for years, Ulster County under Mike Hahn did everything he can to hurt the railroad and to want to get rid of it. And the railroad persevered, and the people who supported it in the community persevered. And I really hope that we come to a rail with trail resolution in this county.
Thank you, Max.
Can I ask one question of, the rail, built? I don't know, never been on it, my kids actually have been on it, I haven't yet. Is this run by, what's the energy, is it diesel, how does this train work?
Last year, we went ahead and switched to biodiesel.
Okay, thanks.
So we're 100% by.
Any others? Okay, I make a motion to close public comment number 2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I make a motion to open the executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you have to read that.
Making a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Public Officers Law 105F to discuss, matters leading to, promotion, demotion, discipline of 3 particular boards.
Vote,
Thank you.
vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor? Aye.
And Mike, that's gonna be it? Okay.
I don't think they're not.